It finally happened, Padres fans. The season came to a crashing halt thanks to, what was it? They are who we thought they were. Is that the famous soundbite from back in the day? What's going on, everyone? Christian Pedersen back with another episode of Padres Digest, the show that is now entering its first official full offseason. Thank you very much for riding the emotional roller coaster that was the 2025 season. Not great, not bad. This game is, this is within 24 hours, my game reactions. Andrew did a much more comprehensive recap. I want to have some fun with it, cast some aspersions and blame. Looking forward to you guys dropping comments on everything this game related. And as always, if you want to hit the subscribe button, we're not giving up. We're not going away. We are going to be bombarding you all off season with clickbaity bullshit. I don't know if I can say that on here without the censors. Maybe not. I don't know. We'll find out. But let's talk about some baseball. The Padres lose. And I have all sorts of places that I want to jump around. Can I start this just by saying Padres have not done well since this happened. And I don't know if this is something that reaches all audiences. But this group here performed a song on KUSI's morning show that came from a very good place in their hearts. But I am now getting concerned has turned into our curse of the Bambino. And I say this with the tongue-in-cheekness of I'm also a YouTuber, blowhard, talking head, and these guys are living their true, authentic selves, and who am I to judge? But also being a baseball fan, there are teams that you singularly can find moments where it's like, this is where the karma shifted against them. And, man. Okay. Sarcastic number one out of the way. I would go more towards the game and say, I got two things I want to talk about blame game-wise. First one being the call from the umpire at the plate. That was ball 4. And not that we were going to come back and win it, ... But that certainly, like the guy was having control issues, and it would have been first and second. And I guess that we still had Brandon Johnson up, but I don't know. Maybe Brandon Johnson bunts. Then it's second and third with Cronenworth. I just I'm very fine with blaming this guy for one. That certainly, it was a good game. The Padres played good games. You can say they all did good games, but at the same time, we got to have one of the ones, though, that I'm really interested, to me, that is the crux of going to be the off-season conversation, is this little number right here. These three, Tatis, Arraez, Machado is the 1, 2, 3. And if this is a decision that Mike Shildt needs the blame, and him deciding to have these three in this order at the top of the order be his ride or die, is this Tatis was just having a bad year and we're going to bounce back next year and it's fine? Is this we need to get rid of Arraez? And or is there an extreme version of this where this is like we need to blow up the blueprint and this is never gonna work no matter who's in the middle between those two? Because Manny and Nando just aren't thunder and lightning. They're not the end-all, be-all, alpha and omega of a successful baseball team, given that ostensibly this trolling here is what we got right now. Guy who was on fire a couple years ago, beating the Dodgers 2 years ago, and then being in 23 days being in first place this year. We really don't have... I talked about this at the end of the regular season, I was curious if this became do or die for A.J. Preller, even though hypothetically the Padres are in one of their best spans ever as a franchise. And that was perfectly summarized for me in the end of this series of you could blame it on the umpires. You could be like, oh, man, you Darvish, what was that start? You can't expect to shut out your opponent every single game. Like it was all of it was just disappointing. Of like even that last inning, summarizing it, we get a great home run from Merrill. Bryce Johnson gets on base, and we ultimately don't have the pieces down in the bottom part of that order. But you could argue also, though, when you look at the top part of the order, no part of the order was getting it done. It was not like there was this singular, we'd worried all season about the singular hole of like a catcher or a left fielder, and it just ended up, again, for multiple seasons in a row now, coming to an end because the guys who we paid the most money to and the most attention to and give the most fame to didn't deliver for us. And the offseason is going to be rife with, I think that this probably means Arraez clears out, and I think that we lose King, and because of the way that he got handled today coming out of the bullpen, and I think that we lose Cease, and there's going to be Suarez, and a good amount of this team is going to go. There are underlying, if we didn't have Freddie Fermin, and that could have been a huge thing, so we'll get him back, and Xander can start hitting well, and you can start talking yourself already into next season, being like, hey, man, we're going to be a good competitive team again. We only need to retool one or two pieces, but we've had that same mentality now for a couple of years. So I will be curious, is it just that AJ needs to go, and the pieces that we retool with need to be perceived and conceived of by a new person? Drop a comment. Let me know there. Is it pitching? Is it like, if the Padres, they gave up 3 runs, that's not fantastic, but like, it's also not the end of the world. You should be able to score multiple runs, multiple games in a series, and not have to worry about like, oh, we didn't shut them out 2 out of 3, so is it pitching that needs to get fixed, or is it the nuclear option, and we need to just melt this thing down and get a massive trade package, keep Manny, and get a massive trade package for Nando, and just replenish and spread it out and put 2 young arms and a fielder and and do all these other pieces, and then also have $10 million to go spend. There's a lot of options that some of these different avenues could open up, and so let's get the dialogue started on that, because we just now get to do the off-season GM thing, thanks to our off-season starting well before a couple of these other squads. That all being said, thank you guys for a wonderful first season of Padres Digest. Really appreciate all of those of you that followed along. If you want to hit the subscribe button, like I said, it would be much appreciated. Andrew and I will be here all off-season, bringing you all sorts of content, salacious and or otherwise. Until next time, Padres fans, keep the faith. I promise you we will have a World Series before the end of the world. I don't know when that's going to be, but we will have one World Series championship before that. Until next time, talk to you guys soon.